Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rodgers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners. We have medical doctors, we have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Dean Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids, like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Welcome to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. Today we're graced with the presence and the energy of Dr. Pamelaia Sanders, a dear friend of mine who serves so many people and so many different organizations in this universe. And so, Pam, would you please introduce yourself to our worldwide audience?
Thank you, Dr. Sandy. Reverend Sister Sandy, I call you doctor just because of the capacity that I see you in this world. And so I come to you today. I am an educator, a transformative learning educator. But what I have found on this journey is that I walk in a variety of ways. I give to others as I feel like I should give to them from my heart. And so I am currently serving as a caregiver to my mother, using a variety of modalities to help her on her journey as she is nearing her 89th birthday. I just walk in the world with my heart, I think, opening it to others and giving as I feel like I need to, Miss Sandy.
Yes. And you've done that so well.
Yes.
We met in Atlanta. You went and obtained your PhD in California.
Yes.
You've lived in Arizona, and now you're in the South.
Yes, I am.
Where you're in your birthplace with your mom. And so you've also done some Peace Corps work over in Africa.
Yes, I did.
So you have a worldwide view of life and living, right?
I want to think that I do. I served in the Peace Corps back in the 90s. I was a business consultant, but in that capacity, I was doing a variety of things, working with small businesses, doing a lot of health and nutrition with people there, doing a lot of AIDS work back there in Africa. And so I've worked everything from the business arena to the educational, working at some major universities on the West Coast and educating our kids in elementary school. And so I've done a variety of things in my lifetime, and they all contribute to what I feel like I do now as a transformative giver of life, should I say. And so I bring all of that, as I like to say, in my medicine bag to give to humanity as I see fit to give. And as well, my spirituality plays a major part in who I am and how I walk in the world, Miss Sandy. It's important. And I think because of my 50 some odd years of living on the face of this earth, I've come to realize that we can't just compartmentalize parts of who we are. It's not just the mind, the intellectual. It's not just the way we're looking at physical, but it's the spirit, the heart, the soul, and the body that we must take into consideration as we sojourn on this path of life. And so because I've worked in so many different capacities, I believe at this age in life, I come with my medicine bag even fuller than it was 20 or 30 or 40 years ago.
Excellent, excellent. And you offer so much because you give from the depth of who you are, and you make sure that you learn all that you can in order to present the best information to people.
I try. I realize that, you know, I think because we hit certain landmarks in our lives, in our 40s and our 50s, and I'm in my 50s, as I said earlier, and I realize that it's not just about the getting the information, but it's also dispersing that information, sharing it with people. I've been very blessed, very fortunate to travel as extensively as I have, to go back to school to get my master's and my doctorate, and to do a lot of work to get certifications in different things. And I realize that a people perish for a lack of knowledge. So oftentimes people don't do X, Y, and Z because they don't have the information, which they should have gotten A, B, and C to be able to do those things. And so at this point in my life, Miss Sandy, what my intentions are to help people to get that information, to disseminate the information in such a way, and to help people. And sometimes it's just basically breaking off a piece of this big piece of pie and saying, taste and eat and try and understand what's going on. And in that process, people begin to walk differently and to move differently. I take for an example with my mother. You know, over a year ago, matter of fact, it's a year ago this month that we brought her home. She had been very sick. The doctors had said what they had said, but I believed a different report, the report of the Lord. And Mama wasn't walking when she came home. She was in a wheelchair. She was bedridden. And I took a piece of information because I believe in the herbs and the wellness of the body. I believe in essential oils. And I mixed together what I believed intuitively I knew would work well for my mother to massage her legs, her back, her arms. I used those things on my mom. as well, I listened to my naturopathic doctor and what I needed to do for her, because at her age of 87 back then, she wasn't able to undergo a surgery to have repair on her heart. And so I took the information that I had obtained and my own training, my own working with herbs and essential oils. I used that information. And today my mother is alive, she's well, she's walking, she's taking care of her business. She's doing phenomenally well. Doctors are looking at her and saying, what did she do? What's going on? And when we were at the doctor's last month, they said to her, whatever you're doing, Miss Sanders, continue doing those things. And so it's sometimes not having a whole bunch of information, but just a small part of information to say, okay, this will work for me. And so even changing my mother's diet, helping her to eat differently, eating a heart-healthy diet has helped her. And so because of those small changes she made in her intake and what she was putting in her system has given her extra life, extra years, extra months, should I say. And she's moving around, she's able to walk, she's able to go out to the not to the grocery store, but to places. She gets to go to church now, she gets to go out to the restaurants to eat and do those things. And that's added to the quality of her life. And I believe that's important for all of us to have that kind of information. So
that's wonderful.
Yes.
And her mama is feisty too.
Yes, mommy is feisty. I thank God for that, because I can say she was determined. She set goals for herself. Through the process of her healing, she set numerous goals. We're looking forward to a road trip coming up real soon, and because she needs to be able to walk and do some things, guess what? She set the goal to say, I need to walk through the house a number of times a day, and she does that. She set the goal in her heart. She needed to do those things, and she's done that. So it's important. So she's doing well. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. In that same spirit of honoring the people that you serve, I understand that you've had 4 individuals, close friends of yours, to transition or to leave this earth within the last month. And so as we were talking, we discovered that that is a subject that is not normally talked about, and that's the death and how that impacts the individual and the family and the community. So would you like to continue that discussion?
I would. I thank you for that. We were initially to talk about emotional wellness, emotional healing, and that branched off from my dissertation, what is the experience of healing soul and rest in the African American community. And so Miss Sandy, 4 of my very close friends transitioned in the past 4 weeks. And that was a lot. And in my being able to talk to you and tell you this is what's going on, because I haven't been able to express that. But I want to share this one particular relationship. I've often heard, when people are coming into the world, we do the preparation. The baby is coming into the world, so we go out and we do a lot of different things. We prepare the room, the space for this baby to move into. And what I'm learning from this whole experience is that if we can begin to prepare for the death, for the transitioning, for the going to the other side, I think we will be healthier, better people. My experiences as a child growing up are different with death than they are now. As a child, I remember hearing my mother and my grandmother and my ancestors talking about what used to happen. Back in the day, the ancestors would sit with the elders, and oftentimes they would have the wakes in the homes. And back in those days, the bodies of loved ones were buried on family plots. That's not happening anymore. And so people were very much so in touch with the death and dying process. Today we've been removed from that process, pretty stoic in many ways. When we go into churches, people, the body is there, and people sometimes sit and say nothing. Sometimes people cry and express their emotions. But I am living through this process of losing 4 very close friends in a way that was different than, say, maybe 20 some odd years ago when I lost my brother, Norman. I lost his sister 6 months ago. And what happened soon after I lost my sister, Faye, which her death came to us, and it bombarded us. I shared with a very dear friend of mine, Adrian. We've known each other for 15 years. And in that process, walk with me through this journey, if you will, if I can share this with you. someone that I've known for a long time. He would check in on me periodically to know how I'm doing, see how I'm doing, just to say I'm thinking of you. And we had our differences and bouts or whatever. And little did I know what he was going through. He had been dealing with cancer, had been going through chemotherapy and radiation. Long story short, I felt the need, because we were talking to one another more often, the need to ask him for forgiveness. Because in our 15 years of friendship, we had our differences. We had butted heads and said some cruel things to one another. And I felt that he needed to ask or to do some things, but I realized it was Pamelaia who needed to say, please forgive me for what I may have said or done to you, Adrienne, that offended you, that hurt you, that cut you to the core. And that little process, those few words of asking him to forgive me for what I had said or done to him, began as a healing process for both of us. Because our conversations through the past few years have been just like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. But in that process, little did I know that I was walking with him through the last months of his life. And as we both sat on the phone and talked and opened up and shared where we had been, those few words began to bring us closer together. And both of us are Christians, both of us believe in God. And we were able to spend the last 6 months of his life in a different place. And he was able to share with me where he had been and saying, you know, it's about love, Miss Sandy. It's about walking in a place of true integrity to love one another as God has loved us. And in that space, we were able to text one another, you know, every day, send Marco Polos and to share. And I'm so grateful for that, because little did I know that I was losing a friend, someone who I had come to know for over 15 years and then would be coming closer to the end of his life and coming closer to him, drawing closer to him in friendship. And in his passing and his getting ready to transition, he picked up his phone and he sent me a Marco Polo. And he made certain to tell me, I love you. And I'm very grateful for us having spent these last few months coming closer together. And I'm grateful for this because when he had passed, when he had transitioned, his oldest daughter sent me a text, and she said, I want you to know that my daddy said for me to make certain that I sent you a text and tell you he loves you. Very grateful for every moment that you all have spent together in the past several months. And so I say that, I share this story because I believe as we live well, Miss Sandy, we're able to die well. And I'm grateful because he has given me a gift that, yes, he is gone and I miss him greatly, but at the same time, it's so beautiful to say, I hold no ill will against him. He got it right in the sense that he had walked around, and God knows I love him, he had walked around pretty full of himself for many years, you know, pretty arrogant and pompous, but he began to realize in these last few years the importance of living well and loving well. And so though he has gone from this earth plane, I miss him greatly, but I feel like I'm at a great peace because there's a love in my heart that was able to be reignited in these last few months of his life. And so I say this because I miss each one of my loved ones, my friends that have passed in the past few years, and I'm able to talk about they're dying. Whereas 27 years ago when I lost my brother Norman, I went into a deep space of darkness, of depression. There was a lot of shame. There was a lot of hurt because of the conditions in which he passed under. I didn't talk about losing my brother because it was so hard. But as I've lost my loved ones and my friends over the past 6 months, over the past 4 weeks, I'm able to talk about them and I remember them. I celebrate their lives. I talk and say, oh, this about my sister Faye. I talk about each one of my friends that I've lost. And I think because of my being in a different place in my own way, I have said, I will not go back into that dark space. I want to not grieve them, but I want to celebrate their lives. I want to celebrate the memory. I want to celebrate the love of who they are. And I think so oftentimes in our culture, as African American people, of color, we don't talk about what hurts us, what grieves us, the loss. We hold on to the pain, and that pain has a way of impacting us in our physical bodies, and our emotional bodies, and our psyches. And so I have chosen to talk about my friends. I talk about my sister. I mean, I'm like her twin. We look a lot alike. We are shaped, we have lots of things in common. It's almost like we're twins. And I choose to celebrate her by doing things differently with what I'm putting into my body, consuming and exercising, taking better care of myself, because she was a registered nurse and she knew a lot of different things, good things, but she did things a little bit different when she was in her own private space. And so I believe that it's important for us to begin to talk about and to prepare for. Because as we prepare for death, we begin to walk in the world differently. Because the truth of the matter is, most of my friends and my sister didn't know that death was going to knock on their door when it did. But what happened was, I can say with my friend Adrian, because of those last 6-7 months of our friendship, I feel a great release, a great understanding of life after death. I believe if we can prepare for death as we prepare for life, we will walk in the world better and differently. And I'm often reminded, people say, well, why did God, and I say this to Miss Sandy, why did God take my loved one from me? But just as God created life, he also created death. And none of us are here to stay forever. And so as we prepare for death and our living, I believe that when that time comes for us, that our loved ones will be able to remember us and to cherish the moments that we have spent with them.
Because we never know.
We never know.
There's not a number. You don't live until you're 99.2 days and then that's the expiration of life here on earth.
Yes.
And so in thinking about what you just shared with us,
mm-hmm.
and that preparation period for death would be to live every day.
Yes.
In love and forgiveness.
Yes, exactly. The Word of God tells us to live and love, the fruit of the Spirit, to forgive one another. And so we oftentimes hold on to stuff. I'm going to get him or I'm going to get her, or she's did. But to every day ask for forgiveness. To forgive ourselves first and foremost. To forgive those who have wronged us, who have done us wrong. And to walk in a place of love. I often look at you, and I often say this to you, Miss Sandy. You are the epitome of light and love, because you walk in such love. It's like there's a ray of sunshine around you. I use you as an example because you're the founder. You are the person, the moderator for this forum, for this worldwide movement. And so I know that I've known you for 20 some odd years, I think it is. And you walk in love, even when I've not done right. You say, I'm gonna love you anyway, girl. And it's like, that's important. And that, I believe, shows a level of maturity, that shows a level of emotional maturity, as well as spiritual maturity. And so it's important for us to begin to get this right, especially in our community, because people oftentimes say, well, they did something to my mama and my grandma. And it's like, but baby, this is a new day, a new time. And so forgiveness is, because we don't we don't go through forgiveness work for the other person. We go through that work for ourselves. Like I use the example with myself and Adrian. I felt in my mind that he needed to do some things, but I needed to do what I did for myself. And once I did that, I believe that I was able to walk in a different space. I know for a fact we walked in a totally different space in life and love, and now in his death and his passing. So it's important for us all to do that.
How would you describe the wellness benefits, or the benefits from looking at life and relationships with
mm-hmm.
others in the vein that you're speaking of, the love and the forgiveness?
One of my dear friends passed last Tuesday, and I remember the last card I got from her. And each one of the people, I've talked to them in the past several months that have passed, I have no regrets. I miss them, but there's a freeness. I'm free. I'm free. One of the things that I learned from you, Miss Sandy, is that you often end conversations with, on the phone, I love you. My girlfriend Cheryl, those words, I love you. My friend Adrian, hanging up the phone, I love you, Pamelaia. My girlfriend Lynette, I love you, as well as Lisa. But she called me Smiley. I love you, Smiley. And so those words are so precious, and we never know when our time will come. When I tuck my mom into bed at night, Mama, I love you. Those are 3 simple words, but they mean so much. They carry such great weight when we speak from our heart. And so that work is important, because though they're absent in their body, they will forever live on in my heart.
It's beautiful. There has been some circles that have fear and have taught fear about death. But we all know it's going to happen. We all are going to experience it at some time. And so to listen and take heed to the advice that you're sharing about honoring and respecting and loving on people today is so crucial.
It is. It is so crucial. One of the things that I heard as a child growing up was that 2 things you got to do. You can go die, and you got to pay taxes. I've often heard one of my good friends who's a pastor in this area say, you know what, baby, you're traveling through. You got an expiration date, an alpha and an omega, a beginning and an end. And that ending is what we're all moving toward. It's inevitable. And so I want it to be said when my time comes that I've walked in love and I've walked in light. I haven't always gotten it right, Miss Sandy. I haven't. But time has brought about a change. And the knowledge, the awareness, as you see things and you realize, you know what, this temple that I'm walking around in one day will go back to dust. And so the part of me that knows right chooses to do right and do differently. And so I tell people, we live and we learn, and maybe what we did when we were in our teens and our 20s, we may have done some things, but you know what? Forgiveness is important. Love is essential. I believe that when we love, when we open ourselves to love, we open our arteries to love. There's a song that I wrote many years ago, Open My Heart to Love. And when we walk in love, it's just like our chest, I believe, it opens up. There's an expansion of the chest, and that's the heart reigns there. And beautiful things begin to happen. If you've ever noticed, if you've seen someone who is walking around, who's always angry, who's always just mean-faced, mean-spirited, they tend to repel people. But when we walk in love, it's like the vibration is so high, people begin to just come, and they want to be a part of whatever it is that whatever you have, I want some of it. And this, what it is just love, because you've done your work, your inner work, and you have begun the process of allowing the light into your heart. And so when you do that, people will be able to say, oh, she's so loving, she's so kind, she's so giving. And that's what I want. That's the epitome of what I want to be able to have people to say about me when my work down here is done.
Excellent.
Yes.
In closing, what words of wisdom would you like to share, pulling from any of the many areas of expertise that you have? It doesn't have to be singular, but what advice would you leave with our audience, knowing that we're touching people to be able to increase their quality of living?
Miss Sandy, profound question. In order to live well, one must take care of this temple, spirit, soul, and physical body. Eat healthy, nutritious foods. Take care of this. exercise, drink your water, be out in the sunshine. Because when you eat live, healthy, plant-based things, this temple tends to appreciate it more. Love and forgive. And so that you may live well all of the days of your life. So that when that time comes when you say, goodbye, I'll see you on the other side, they will say, that was a loving, kind, and good person. Well done, well done, well done.
Thank you, Dr. Pamelaia.
Thank you, Miss Sandy. I love you and I appreciate you. And may the goodness of God always shine upon you. Bless you, young lady.
Thank you, I accept.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for letting me come on board for this great journey and great opportunity. My name is Chakayah Omwaso, and I started on this path pretty much at a very young age, looking at things, observing life as a young child, and not knowing that I was even then interested in the acumen of energy and was so in the midst of it, as I can say. But what led me on this great journey, believe it or not, was the food. As a young person, there was many things that I didn't really care for, and with having family from the South and very stern on, you eat what's on the table. I was very blessed to have a greedy little brother and a little sister that I could slide my food to. But the thing was, I was very selective even then toward meats and dairy products. And even to the point at a little incident when I was visiting the great-grandparents one summer, it happened that I ate my pet chicken. And I was about 12, 13 years old, and I was done. I was like, no, I couldn't eat. Did I eat Charlie? Yes, you did. And you said Charlie was good last night. So that led me even thinking, oh my God, how can I take in something like that? But thinking at that age, I was fully aware on how life was more so really to be honored in every way. And I understand for those, eat meat and everything, you do your prayers or whatever, or take it in with love by saying, this is good, and that's wonderful and all. But this is what led me on the journey where I was introduced to many forms of modalities, but the main course was, like I stated, was the food. And then learning the various vibrations of the food as well, because of the importance of us making sure that we have it seasonally, and also even through the age process, things you can eat as a young person versus a adolescence to an elder. But along with all of that, what's most important is the energy that you carry with that more so than anything, because everything is energy.
Yes.
Yes. So whatever you put out is what many times you do receive. And it may not come like that quickly, but within the cycle, it does return to you. So I was very blessed with being introduced to modalities like Reiki, access consciousness, along with body code. And with those, they're working with the mental aspect because many of us were led into various forms of mental state and really don't know why. And what, just going through life, many things can trigger it. But the key is how to handle it, or if there's any way of handling it. And yes, we have many. With just the energy work alone, the best thing for you to do is breathe. Just take that moment and just take in breath. And what I can say is, with taking that breath, it's going to help to start bringing you to balance. And that's what you need. And with that balance, that can lead you into being clear to going into other modalities to assist yourself. Because we all have the gift of healing. And that's one of my main reasons I think I'm on this journey, to just be that example of being just that. Because I'll go through and I'll do my studies, do the work, and I'll share it. So with that, I hope that gives, the person a chance to have that experience, but to get the full benefit of the healing and knowing that they also have the power of doing that for themselves.
Excellent.
Most of us think of energy as like, putting a battery into an outlet or whatever, and that's how it happens. But it's more to that, It is, you have to look at yourself as being that component. And we've all have had the experience of various energies, as in love, as in hate. Those are just, some of the subtle ways, but the thing is that flow, you feel it. It's something that you truly do feel, through sadness or joy. But the thing is, with having the flow, as I'm stating, having that flow of energy and having that good feeling, or even having that bad feeling, when you extend that out to someone verbally or touching them, believe me, they feel what you feel. And that's energy. Having a good massage or a nap, you feel very settled, you feel comfort, you feel at peace. It is not a big woohoo, Star Spangled Banner type thing going on and sparkles and all that. It's a very, very, very settledness, because your body needs that in order to do the proper healing. You need to be at peace, you need to be settled, quiet. And that's how healing energy is. Many people feel sleepy and tired afterwards, meaning their body just needs to heal more. And it's taking that time to heal.
So what's the intersection of what you do in the various energy modalities?
Yes.
And I believe you said that you bring nutrition knowledge and education into that as well. So how does applying those affect, or what effect does it have on a person's wellness?
Well, it can have quite a bit, especially with applying Qigong to the technique or your repertoire of healing. That using that, you're doing a lot of breath work, a lot of body movement too, but with the nutrition aspect of it, you have to apply enough nourishment to your body. And it may not be the same for everybody, because some people say, well, I don't eat that much. Well, it may not be all that in foods. Many of us are dehydrated. We need more fluids, and you can apply your minerals in with your fluids as well through juicing, through smoothies, and that can assist and get your body up and running, because many times the masses do overeat, and you need that break so your body can take a rest and take a moment to doing healing the proper way. So with that, it's very important. The food applied with Qigong, even applied with any kind of energy work, because many of the foods can cause forms of blockage, stagnation, especially with the circulation of the blood. So, you know, if you are in with working with yourself in the sense where you want every angle possible, because many times you can't get everything in, but you can get such a nice portion in and then go on to the next segment, you know, because it takes time. You know, we've seen it through many literatures through history and time, and they use it in a form of fasting. We just saw, what is it, Lent. We have one right there, many things that we need to apply, giving our body a break, yes. Because fasting is a form of healing in itself. So it is a good thing. But if you have any kind of challenges where you're taking any type of meds or such, then you know you need a physician to be supervised, and you know have them to have you under supervision.
So how would you answer, what is the purpose of your work?
The purpose of my work, I feel like more so than anything, is to show and be the example of it. You know, and along with that, be just open to teaching and whatever information that I have to pass that information on. But I feel as though, you know, to really showing, okay, this is the way, if you choose this way, then good. But if you choose another, that's fine too, because that is to your preference. Because everybody can tweak and put a little bit of this and that. And I appreciate a little bit versus none at all.
And I've seen you, I've seen your energy, and it's just like off the charts, you know, and
Probably
you love to dance, you know, and all of that. And a lot of times, perhaps it's the food that slows us down, where we can't move as fluidly as you do. So,
well, perfect example, every Thanksgiving. You would think with all the family coming together and the joy and people eating, they'll get out and have fun. But what do? Sit around and watch TV and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It just gets slow, sluggish, you know. And we need to change that. We really do. We need to change actually the whole attitude toward food in itself. It's even this year I started something that the day of birth for myself, I do not eat on that day. So I'm a Wednesday child, so today is that day of just the fluids. And so, you know, incorporating that. And that's a great thing for us to have a good time frame to honor our body and apply those good things to it, which is a break from food, which is a good natural walk in the air, around trees. And if you can, walk with the giant steps and move your arms, because that is a form of a Qigong walk. And if you can, spread your fingers and feel the wind up against you, and take a real strong walk doing that, and you'll see the benefit. And if not, take a moment, sit down, converse with nature, hug a tree, smell the flowers, but feel the energy around you. Because those are really, really important things for us to do. Our ancestors spent many, many days, weeks, maybe months in mountains to just find out one or two little answers to a question that they had. Or maybe to see that Sirius B star that comes every 60 years. So it's important for us to slow down a little bit, especially with this fast pace that we have going right now.
So to a person that says they can't fast one day a week, that's just too much, how would you advise a person to begin the process?
Well, I would tell them to start off with just cutting back on something that they truly like. You know, for instance, like a person and say, well, every day I have to have coffee. I said, okay, then maybe try 1 day a week without having coffee. If that's too much, start off with half a cup of coffee and make your way down to no coffee that day. So baby steps like that. Just slowly with something that you like a great deal and remove that and gradually remove more and more and more.
That sounds workable. And so I like that, you know, like don't just deprive yourself, but, you know, love on you while you're cutting back and getting to a healthier state. So, you know, that's excellent.
Because you may come to a really subtle agreement with that item and then say, you know, I don't need you any longer. And that item might say to you, you're absolutely right. It was fun while it lasted. Bye-bye.
I love it. And you were talking about like hugging a tree and walking outside and your arms moving. I've heard of a process that's called grounding. Is that what you're talking about? Or, you know, with the hugging of the tree and being outside?
Yes, grounding, so important. Many of us, when we hear that word, you don't know where to go with that. It is where you feel just scattered, unbalanced, you just seem like you just can't get it together. So through my the teachings I've learned is to really go out and hug a tree or just sit on the ground, back up against it and just breathe with that. But if you don't have any of that around and can't do that, just, you know, take a moment and just take a breath, feel the energy coming from Mother Earth and connecting to you. And just feel that energy just rising into your body, all the way up to your crown, and even above your crown. And it's as if it's moving around. And then just slowly bring that down and send that either back down to Mother Earth, or you can send it out maybe through your hands, your fingertips, and just let it go out to the universe. And you do that a few times. And with a few of those techniques, any of those, and just take a moment and see how you feel after that.
So the breath is very important.
The breath is very important.
And I understand that many of us do not know how to properly breathe to get the maximum benefit from the breaths.
Yes, and the best way, and you know, and there's different types of forms, especially with different meditations and, you know, forms of exercising. But on the all in all, the main one you want is to inhale where your chest expands. So your chest is expanding, and then when you exhaling, you're releasing the abdominal and just letting it like spread out. So you do that a few times with the expansion, and then just letting it out, and then you can feel the release, but you can feel that build up in the chest, and then take it down slowly. And exhale it out the nose would be very good for you to start that way. And after a few of those, you do.
Very calming. I was doing them as you was giving the example. I was like, "Ooh, man, this feels good." Very calming.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the breath, very, very important. Of course, food is a big part of it. But, you know, being with balance with yourself, keep yourself grounded, and just be aware of all the energies around you.
Do you have suggestions on food for the audience?
Oh, of course. My favorite is to eat with the seasons. Always eat with the seasons. And also experiment, meaning that whatever foods come out during that season, those are the ones you consume the most. You know, you of course can put in all your other, but consume those the most, and you may end up making a meal out of most of those foods. So you do that along with consuming your fluids. And if you eat enough fresh fruit and vegetables, it balanced the fluids out where you won't need as much water as most people would think. Oh, I got to drink a gallon or two. Well, if you eat enough fruit, you will, and also vegetables, that fluid from those foods is really what you need, and it'll balance that out.
Well, how do I find out what foods are in season? I mean, I can buy watermelon all year long,
That's
and
so
strawberries all year long. So where can I find information on what's in season, or is there an easy way to remember how to know?
Well, you know, many people do have their little charts for it. I guess I'm just so old school. I just kind of know what comes out around this. But you know, there are different books, forms of I think like an almanacs, but there's booklets. But even just check with your local grocery stores and say, you know, if you really don't know what's in season this time of year. And one thing I also like to point out is to be mindful of foods with no seeds in them. Especially the new thing with watermelon, oranges besides grapes, no seeds. Be mindful, yeah.
Not natural, right?
Not natural. Like the ancient ones, know thyself. If you know thyself, that is the best lead. And we've had so many great ones before us and have left that message for us. But to know thyself, and of course to love thyself, but to cherish thyself as well, because you have to take care of this beautiful body temple. And if you do that, you're doing the right thing.
Thank you, Sister Chakayah.
Thank you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you. Thank you so much for including me in your project.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, you have so much to offer. You've done so much intensive research and study on African Americans, particularly, and our contributions to humanity and society. So you're an author, and you're really involved deeply into helping us to see our ancestral connection with the motherland, and just for us to understand our power and our strength and who we are in our melanated skin. So you've done several books. You've done a word book that bridges the information with the also with people that like to do the word searches or the puzzle books, right?
Yes, yes. I'm looking at that one from a couple of angles, from the angle of just word searches in general and how they help people remain sharp, their brains remain sharp. And in particular, I use that particular format and subject matter as part of my comprehensive approach, I guess, to my writings, which is to help share what I came to conclude after taking a trip to Africa, which sent me on a mission, if you will, to try to help us here in the diaspora in America to heal.
Right. And so that takes on a myriad of looks, right? As far as which aspects of life and living we need to touch on.
Right. Part of what I do in my books, I try to present as many angles as I can for what I feel we are missing in terms of healing. First by, in the first two books, going through and just kind of evaluating, taking a second look at what happened to us during slavery and how we got to be who we are today. And I think it's very important to us, especially in terms of healing, because that process never took place. I did a lot of research after I took my trip to Africa, and in doing so, I came to realize just how many different types of African Americans there are. And so we have a lot of different types of needs. I look at some of those needs in my book, but those of our ancestors who were still enslaved never had an opportunity to heal. They had to be stressed. They were, traumatized from their experiences, and they were expected to just pick up and go along. The same thing with, the experiences that were passed down to us. They may have had an origin in what was done to us during slavery, but the behaviors were just passed down through us, through our parents and our parents' parents, and just never addressed. One example I can think of is the way that we, or our generation, disciplined or received discipline and learned how to discipline our children. During our enslavement, it was vital for parents to be able to control their children because of to keep them out of harm's way. When something was threatening the black structure of that family, whether it was a formal family or informal through jumping the broom or whatever, that family unit, the children, if there was harm coming their way, the children had to respond to their parents' control over them. They didn't have the luxury of questioning what the parents said or anything like that the kids are doing now. To me, that's how it started in terms of the harsh behavior that the parents kind of meted out to the children to get that point across. I mean, but there was no explanation that came with it. It was just, okay, you felt threatened by your parent in some cases, but that person is really trying to impress upon you the need for you not to go and try to drink water out of that fountain or go and play with the white child over here or even look in somebody's face. So that kind of thing. But it just kind of passed down from each generation. And so, but the meaning for it kind of lost its way as we went along. So those are the kind of things that I think that it would benefit all of us to just kind of put on the table and discuss, so that we can see what it was, so we can become conscious of it, or woke, as the young kids are saying now. For the children, they had no idea why the parents are treating them so harshly, and from the parents' standpoint, it may be because of issues of shame, or especially for the adult male, the father to have to admit to his family, that he's not able to protect them or, keep them from harm's way. So rather than showing that feeling of hurt or wounded pride or whatever, that kind of thing was just swallowed, and then the end result is what the child saw, which was harsh behavior or whippings or, that kind of thing. When I was young, in elementary school, my father, me and my brother would play, and my mother would tell on us when he came home from work. But one day, we had really done her in. So when he came in, he was really upset with us, and so he told us that he was going to hang us. And he had us to go and find a rope, and there was a tree next to the house where we lived. And he went through the whole motions. My daddy was he was a little different, but he went through the motions as if he was going to hang us, and just to scare us out of our minds. And I was really like, what? He didn't give any explanation for it. He didn't hang us, obviously, but I would never have even followed any kind of thread about that behavior had I not been at my uncle's. My uncle passed, and at his service, I think one of our cousins, or one of my dad's cousins, got up and, he was talking about my uncle, and then he related to an experience that their father had done the same thing to him. Well, their father was closer into the age of, Jim Crow. He wasn't a slave, but his father was a slave. So, it was more relevant to my grandfather as a fear that had been instilled upon him, the whole hanging thing. And I think part of it was also to kind of take some of the whole terror from the Ku Klux Klan, and just kind of make it seem not right, but just made it seem as if it made sure that they knew that it was a consequence that could be experienced, without him putting on a sheet and a hood and stuff like that. But anyway, it just kind of passed down to my father. I don't know what my father's conscious thoughts were about it, but that's where he got it from, an experience in his childhood, so I don't know if that was a little vague, but
no, not vague at all, because what it seems is that your father never healed
right
from that experience,
right.
And so that's why he then exposed you and your brother to that,
and thought it was okay to
right.
threaten us with
Right.
with hanging,
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the when I went to Africa and saw how, especially in the countryside, how the mothers, the relationship between the mothers, the parents, and their children, and how they were treated more like children, and expected to. They were taught to behave, but it wasn't in a harsh way at all. And the same thing when my son was in a Muslim school, and when I go over to visit the school and just watching the other Muslim women and their children, and just the parents, how they interacted with their children. It was the same way as in Africa with that love, you could see the love. The children, it was clear to the children that they were being loved, and even when they were being disciplined, there was no, hanging threats involved, that kind of thing. So anyway, we've just had a lot, that we have experienced. And like I said, there was never an opportunity to heal. There were some of us who were freed earlier than others. Some came at the early end, at the beginning of slavery, and they were indentured for a number of years, and then they were allowed to be free citizens, earn a living, become professional, have their own businesses and that kind of thing. There were those of us who came to this country escaping from Haiti, as they were the sons and daughters of the slave owners there, and because of the culture that was developed to raise the slave owners' children, offspring, up above the masses of us, as a way of keeping us separate and keeping us divided. There were a lot of people who had to run from black people of African descent who had to leave Haiti and come to this country, for fear of their lives during the revolution. Then you have people here who were people whose ancestors were part of the breeding farms, and so their whole culture is something completely different. There was no need for for that. In that particular universe, there was no existence of love and family unit, because what the end result was going to be. In other places, it might have been a surprise to have one of the relatives sold off, but in the breeding farms, that was what the business was. You make the children are sold someplace else, or that kind of thing. So those kinds of things were just go down, through our DNA, and so we've retained, all of that experience, and it's different types of experiences, but we're considered as African Americans here, and those things, just the fact that there are so many differences have not really been pointed out that much. So the color in our community, you know, why, you know, not only the lighter skinned people, but the darker skinned people, you know, don't like the lighter skinned people, or lighter skinned people don't like the dark, you know, and it's all because of what that whole institution was about, you know, but as the generations continue to come in, the information or the reasons behind that behavior is left behind, and we're just left with the behavior.
The colorism.
Yeah.
You brought up an interesting concept, the breeding farms. And I'm sure that has an effect on how people relate to one another within our communities. What is your take on that, as far as how that has destroyed the strength that we had as a family unit over in Africa, and then we, you know, brought here, and it's dismantled, so to speak. You know?
There was everything done to dismantle the family unit, from you know, splitting the family and sending them, you know, to different places, to making it impossible for the system of spirituality and worship, the language, you know, not allowing marriages or anything like that, you know, so it was all fluid depending on what your circumstance. Once we find out, you know, once we are able to just flush things out and to acknowledge them, to acknowledge, you know, that these terrible things happened to our ancestors, and therefore there, you know, we have may have family relatives who act a certain way, and we're not sure why. Nobody ever wants to talk about it or what went on with them. We don't, in the end results though, I don't think we really, because for most of us, we will never know what exactly happened to our ancestors. And so, but I think the main thing is to understand that there were a lot of things that did happen to our ancestors, and the main purpose that I'm trying to bring about is for us to give ourselves a break, and to give each other a break, and to just start, you know, as a way of getting beyond that, just loving each other, you know, just loving each other and learning how to do that, and what that entails, and learning that it's okay to do that. It's okay for us to love each other and to accept each other for who we are and where we may have come from. And I think that once we are able to do that, the sky is the limit for us, you know, because we're at a point now, after we were freed from slavery, and after the period where we were in the Jim Crow South especially, but other places in this country where we were physically assaulted, and we couldn't reasonably, and there's some issues now of course, but just generally as a group, we could not expect to be treated fairly in terms of our physical safety and being able to provide for our families. But we're past that point now, so, but we're still doing things from habit, from the way things used to be. You know, we're still waiting for the government money to come in and start a Head Start program, you know, when, you know, my living room is big enough to have some kids come in here. You know, to gradually make that turn so that we can attach ourselves to our community nature, our nature of living in a community and being a village that raises a child, and, you know, making sure that everybody in our village had, you know, what they needed, you know, like Jesus was saying, making sure that the widows are taken care of with their, you know, someone's left with little children, you know, the community can help that person, you know, to heal emotionally and to try to get back on their feet and help them, you know, financially and other materially while they're trying to do it. I think we're still kind of waiting for our former captors to do things for us that we can now do for ourselves, reduced to money. And, you know, my life, I want to get married because this person has this amount of money, you know, or I can have enough money to send my children over here, or, you know, that kind of thing. And looking in terms of looking for money instead of what the desires of our heart actually are. A lot of unconditioning that needs to take place. But I think that if we get started with it, you know, and to just, as I said before, not look for, or maybe I didn't say this, not look for approval, you know, because we do things this way. Well, this is the way that, you know, somewhere in our being still tells us to do them, you know, and as long as the God self directs us in that direction, then, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, I don't have to have a BMW or whatever to show that I'm successful. You know, I don't have to have that as my goal for every waking moment of my day, of every day, you know. And I know people who, you know, I used to know people who are like that. Their whole life revolves around, you know, getting material things that you cannot take with you at the end of your life's journey or whatever. So
great points. Great points. So in closing, is there a summary or a couple of points you want to make to the listening audience that can be incorporated into increasing the wellness of our communities?
I think the greatest thing, or the thing that I would like to, the greatest point that I would like to leave everybody with is learning to recognize your God self, because it all starts with that, and learning to recognize the voice that is within you that will direct your path, and learning that you are worthy of hearing that voice, that you are not a child of a lesser God, you know, that this is for like as Jesus said, he came to show us that to live life and live life abundantly. So the things that, the material things, not money, you know, not Fort Knox, or although I understand that's empty, but the things that you want, the things that are the desires of your heart, you know, your creativity can blossom, you know, once you are confident enough in your inner spirit, then you can be open to love, you know, and the love that you pour out is returned, you know. So I think that's the greatest lesson that all of us can learn.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Linda Pace Samuel. You have just been a joy and shining light on a lot of things that we can incorporate into our lives, and so we sincerely appreciate you.
Thank you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Hi, good evening everybody. My name is Kimbrough, and I am just a wonderful spirit who loves life and lives it to the fullest. And I want all around me to love life and live it to the fullest. I have life coaching certifications. I'm a student, ministerial student right now. But globally, I really just embrace life fully and would like to have everybody around me embrace life. My mom lived in New York City, and I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And Mom was in the apartment she was in 40 years until I moved her to Atlanta with me. And it was really interesting moving her from her apartment in New York to my home in Atlanta. And I was kind of trying to make a decision whether I should move her to my home or should I go to New York to be with her in her familiar surroundings. But when I thought about the community support that I had been gone from New York for many years at that time. So I really didn't have a good support community for myself. And where I was in Atlanta, I had a ton of support with my church, with my community affiliations. So it was a wiser decision for me to bring her to Atlanta for care. I also have an older brother, and both of us had made a decision because he lived in Florida at the time. And we decided to bring her here so she would be with me and close to him. In doing this, at first I saw that there were some kind of changes in her behavior, and we had some really close family friends kind of looking in on her in New York. But the first time that I really considered it, she really wasn't ready, and I really wasn't ready. It's like, for me, honestly, I'm not sure if you're ever really ready for this kind of an assignment, as some people like to call it. But the second time, it's like I had to be ready, and I knew that I was going to have to do something. So what I did was I started asking for help. And one of the first things I did was I kind of looked around for facilities and places that I might need to help support me in the community for senior care, for elder care, for senior services. And I live in Cobb County, Georgia, and in that county there were quite a bit of senior services available. There were daycare. I did not know that they had adult daycare until I ventured into this. And there's also different levels of living life for people who just need to have some community around them. They may not cook or clean for themselves as much, but they just wanted to have some community. And then there's going even further into like memory care, and then they have the rehabilitation centers along the way. So there's several levels of care that are available for people on our life journey in aging. Mm-hmm.
And so you said in the beginning you needed to make an adjustment.
Yes.
You couldn't commit. And so I'm sure that's quite normal for people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a major step.
Mm-hmm.
And would in your 2020 vision now,
Mm-hmm.
was that not the best thing that you could have done?
I'm not sure, because I in hindsight, in 2020, working on myself and some of the things that happened to me along the way, during the journey and after the journey, I didn't take care of myself as well as I took care of my mom.
Okay.
So, yeah, there were some decisions to be made. I mean, financial decisions. There were career decisions to be made, because I lived on my own and in my own home, and I worked a job to maintain my bills and everything, and to take on an elder or anybody with a full-time job, knowing that the elder's memory was declining, I wasn't sure how to handle it. Let me just put it that way for a moment. So I did not know everything that I was about to embark on, but one thing I knew, that it was Mom. Mom took care of me all my life, and I made a promise to her when I was about 11 that if and when you need me, I would be there. And when after Mom's transition, and I was talking to different people to work through some of the life challenges and physical challenges that I had along the way, they were like, did you know you honestly have been preparing to take care of your mom since you were 11?
Wow.
And I was like, oh wow. wow. You know, when I think about it, I have, because career-wise, the kind of jobs I took, I had steady 9-to-5 career jobs in one particular office here or another particular office. But then I started taking projects, things that may have been short-term, may not have kept me in one place, you know, allowed me to travel and see the world, because Mom always said, travel and see the world while you can. So if you can get paid to do it, do it. You know, I know I wasn't in the military, but there are a lot of professional careers that you can do, and travel is a passion. My mom and dad took me to Nassau in the Bahamas when I was like 11 years old or something, so I got the travel bug big. Or 6th grade, however old you are in 6th grade. I just remember it was 6th grade.
Right, right. Now, and the reason why I was asking is I'm sure that perhaps some people make a decision to be a caregiver and not really have given it any thought. And so that's what I was alluding to with the other question. But you answered it very well, because this is, you know, even though we understand that we all are going to transition from out of this physical plane into another place, we're not always prepared to take on that role or to assist somebody on that journey. So,
yeah. Right. Yep, and my mom actually took care of my dad. This is crazy. My mom got ill around 40, 41. She was a LPN nurse, licensed practical nurse, and she had a blood clot that basically manifested into several illnesses that kept her from going back to work full time. My dad was a motorman, and he worked until he retired at 57, and 3 months later he passed. So it was just like he was probably sick for over a year, and we didn't know. I was already away from home. I graduated from college and was doing my own thing in Boston, living and working. And so my mom, you know, she had her husband, and he was kind of looking after her. Then she had to flip and look after him, and then he made his transition a whole lot sooner. Everybody thought she was going to go first, but she actually she made it through till 76.
Wow.
You know, so it was just amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
35 years after.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Your learnings that you gathered as you went through this process. So how are you sharing that with the world?
It's funny that you asked that, because I am one of these people who, when I go through the situations, I ask, okay, God, is this lesson for me, or is this lesson for me to share with some other folks, or is it for both of us? You know, so having a education nature, teaching nature, a teaching spirit, I started sharing in a blog. The blog was, I just kind of started doing a caregiver's blog, and it was things that I wish I knew as I was embarking on this journey. If I had a few different situations, I would share them, because a project kind of came to me called the Caregiver Survival Guide, because I ended up in ER 2 times while I was working with taking care of my mom. And one of those times in particular, I had a really good friend who traveled on business a lot, and she would call and check in and say, how's Mom doing? Is Mom okay? Everything all right with y'all? And one of those phone calls, I had to say, well, we're at the hospital. She's like, what's wrong with Mom? Like, it's not Mom this time, it's me. Wow. So being that I survived that situation, thank God, that I have decided to share that you have to take care of yourself first. And a lot of people who fly, or even if you don't fly, you've heard the story. If there's turbulence in the air and the oxygen mask drops, put your oxygen mask on before you tend to your children or anybody else who may need your assistance, because you need your breath before you can help somebody else have their breath. So the breath is important.
And that was one of your major key learnings during that process?
That was one of my key learning experiences during that process. And so I also was just trying to think, how can it make it simple? Because I had never done this. I don't have any children, so I never really had to take care of anybody but myself. And to take care of another human being full time, 24/7, was a big learning curve for me. And while I'm working as a career person, so I just started asking people around me, have you ever taken care of anybody? Do you know anybody who's taken care of anybody? Do you have any suggestions? You know, because when I've gone through other experiences in life, I've always been told to ask, or, you know, just ask. If you ask, people will share. And people started sharing, and I started getting flooded with information. I got so much information, I was overwhelmed. And fortunately, a good friend's mom was like, you need some help? For what do you need? I'm like, well, I asked for information, and I got so much information I don't know what to do with it. So this friend's mom happened to be an educator, so she was like, send it to me and I'll organize it for you, and I'll give you the names, addresses, break it down in categories and things that I think you might be able to work with and stuff. So it's just amazing the kind of help that just came. Church members, even you, Sandy, you know, you used to go when mom was in the assisted living facility. I couldn't always make it there, and one thing I learned dealing with that situation is people who had people coming through were taken better care of than people who had no people coming through, because folks didn't feel like they had this higher level of accountability. So, I mean, I really appreciated that, especially being the only sibling here. You know, I had other family members that could stop in periodically, but the majority of mom's family was in Missouri. So, not even in New York or not in Atlanta. So, you know, they would come periodically, but it's the community we make right where we are.
I think that's important to have, to share that with the audience, because there are situations where a person is by themselves, and I can just imagine that has to be like, just, you know, you're overloaded with responsibility, not understanding how to share it, or that you will get, you know, the help from friends, like so. Yours is a very had a very good ending, and a very impactful caring from people, you know, that was able to relate to you. What would you, what advice would you give somebody that does not have that type of support from their friends or community?
It's funny that you asked that question, because I get asked questions similar to that pretty regularly, and I tell folks, don't be surprised if the help that you expect to have from your immediate relations, blood or not, don't come through. But people who are just connected by spirit, or just connected by an association. Because I'm also thinking of a young lady I had just say, she called me from one of my social organizations. She was like, Karen, I know you're tired. I can't get home. My parent is being taken care of by somebody in the community. Can I come and sit with your mom? And I'm just like, wow. We weren't even really social friends. We were just kind of acquaintances. So be open and know that everything that you need is right there. It just may not come from where you think it's going to come from. It's funny that you say it's not funny, but I know Bertice Berry says something about life gets so painful, and even the absurdity that you have to laugh at. And, you know, as I was going through my process, it's like, learn to find the funny. You know, one of my things was learn to find the funny. But yes, I got overwhelmed. Did I get resentful? Yes, because I was looking for help from certain people, certain places, and when it didn't come, I took it personal. But hindsight 2020, doing self-work, it's like, Karen, it wasn't about you. It was about these individuals and their relation to your mother, and the fact that because they're relations, they think they might have similar mortality or similar issues. And looking at your mom, they might have felt like they were looking in a mirror or something that could have been in their future. So they didn't want to deal with it. They couldn't deal with it. They did not know how to deal with it. So that's why they just didn't come to you when you expected them to come to you. When I was going through it, I was just going through it. And so I didn't get that insight until I started doing personal work on myself, dealing around resentment, even with my mom. As much as I love my mom, it's just like, wow, could we have planned something better? But you don't know.
Excellent.
You don't know.
Yeah. But that's such a wonderful observation for you to share, because I've talked to individuals that, depending on certain circumstances that occur, they're mad at God, but then they feel guilty because they're mad at God. So for you to share that, you know, it's human. Like your whole world was turned upside down, and even though you have been preparing since the age of 11, there was like no preparation, right?
Yeah, truly. I mean, because it's a financial, it's huge financial, it's huge time. It's adjusting your life. I mean, from a carefree single for the most part, you know, go to work because I have to be a responsible adult to take care of my household, you know, and at the time, going to work was how I did that. You know, I had started a few little businesses here and there to see if I could get out the work-a-day rat race, as we say, but basically I was going to work and then coming home. And when I started taking care of my mom, the full-time job I had came to an end. And so I was like, wow, I'm here to, mom needs more care. My schedule just freed up to provide that more care, but I still need to have some kind of income coming in. So I started looking for part-time jobs to kind of work with her schedule and stuff, because I still had to sustain not only myself, but then I also had to sustain her, because I kept her myself in my own home for the first like year and a half. I had this like 6 years, last 6 years of her life, she lived with me, and between me and then assisted living, when I just couldn't take it anymore. Physically, I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, I get it. Seriously, I mean, I understand that. And a number of years ago, as a supervisor at a telephone company in California, I had an employee, model employee, just very advanced in her knowledge of the job, was very professional, up for a promotion. And then she started missing work and missing work and missing work, where her mom was keeping her up at night because her mom would walk out the door. And yeah, and you know, she'd notice that the door was open and she'd have to go and look for her. I had to sit her down and say, there's a possibility you need to look for some help, for a facility that could house her. Otherwise, you're going to be without a job.
Yeah.
And without a job, you know, how are you going to continue? And so those are really, really important aspects of life when you're dealing with that caregiving situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I need a pause for a tissue.
Sure. So we paused for a moment for Karen to collect herself, and so I'm asking her to share the emotional place where she went as we were discussing the caregiving of her mom. And so, Karen, if you feel good with it, I would like for you to address that to the audience.
Well, it's been 8 years, September this year, because 2010, she made her transition, and yeah, it's amazing. I didn't understand the word depression. I just knew I wanted to sleep, wasn't really hungry, didn't really want to socialize, and Spirit brought a person in my life who happened to be a professional counselor. And I'm just like, wow, 3,000 miles away from my home. But we talked on the phone pretty regularly. And she's like, you're depressed. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I just don't want to eat, don't want to do this, don't want to do that. So she's like, you got a doctor's appointment. And when are you going to see your physician or something like that? So I had a doctor's appointment coming up. I made a doctor's appointment. Had to take some like 10-question quiz. He said, yeah, you probably need to go talk to somebody. And I'm just like, wow. So, I mean, it's mom. She birthed me. I lived in her body for 9 months. You know, so it's still a little hard in some spots. But I'm glad I did some work. I'm glad people came in my life to let me know it's okay, whatever I'm feeling, to feel it. The first times that I decided to go away, I was scared to leave my mom alone, but I love water. I just went up 20 miles away from my house to one of the lakes in the area, and I stayed in a cabin. And it just so happened my cell phone did not work, and which was wonderful. But I gave the help that I was paying to come into the house, gave them my backup cousin's number and another family member, and so they were trying to reach out because mom happened to walk out the door and lock the or the caregiver walked out and locked herself out the house. Now this lady was in her 60s, I believe, at the time, and she didn't have a key to the house. I don't know, or she did not have the key with her when she walked out the house, because she had to have the key to the house. She was there for the weekend and stuff. And, you know, people were trying to reach me, and I didn't know till after the fact. But when you know, it's a little scary, but it's not scary, because thank God that the person that was looking after my mom had looked after one of my other friends' parents, both mother and father. And she was a spry 60-something, so she climbed over the neighbor's deck to get to my deck to get in the house, because fortunately she had left the back deck open so they could get some air and stuff. But mom was just in the house jamming to the blues. I know AARP, they have a whole section on caregivers. I did not know about AARP when I was going through my process of caregiving. Because of my mom was going through Alzheimer's dementia, the Alzheimer's Association was an organization that was brought to my attention that had tons of resources and information. Also, the last full-time job assignment that I had was at a workforce development agency that was steeped in community assistance for people and families, people out of work, families, and there were so many different resources there. The United Way 211 number, they have resources, and I found a lot of this information at the job that I was working. And if you've heard of Maddie's Call, the Maddie's Call in Georgia is like an Amber Alert for children, but it's an Amber Alert, for lack of a better term, for adults, aging adults, and it's about the different agencies that get together. I worked with the daughter of Maddie, and so it's just like everything happens for a reason. I mean, even me just being at that particular organization at the time that I was working there, it wasn't necessarily something that I was directly looking for. I think it was one of my transitional jobs, I say, based on some of the different career directions that I've gone, because I've made a few dips and changes in career for my own sanity, and also just to fit my life and just to see what things were about. You know, I wasn't one of those 30-year and out kind of people. That's what my mom used to tell me. Truth be told, technology has been one of the bigger parts of my life, and there's some companies that I worked for that don't even exist anymore. So I couldn't have done 30 years and out with them. So for me personally, Alzheimer's Association was a big thing. Now, from being an advocate for people who are caregivers, I recommend AARP. And then if the person that you're working with, the loved one that you're caring for, has anything going on, just kind of look to see if there are supporting organizations for the situation that's happening in their life.
Well, thank you very much. You are such a fantastic, loving daughter, and I know your mom is smiling down on you still. So thank you, Karen Kimbrough.
Thank you, Sandy. It's been a pleasure.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Like Sandy said, my name is Havinah Cheryl Duncan, and I am a sacred aspirant. And what that means is that I am becoming the goddess that the Creator wants me to become. Through a class that I'm taking, it's helping me to develop my inner nature, and it's helping me to develop who I am becoming, what I'm destined for. That name also means that I am of the Creator, and it's helping me to understand fully what that means, is that I am a part of this universe, and the universe is within me. The way that I think, the way that I feel, the way that I eat, the way that I dress, the way that I address nature itself and others, I'm becoming who the Creator really wants me to become. And with that, it means that my diet has to be in order, my whole entire spirit, my body, through exercising, through the things that I read, through the company that I keep, the places that I go, everything has to be in divine order. And for years, it's taken me to become that person because it was never taught us on how to become a divine woman, a woman of God. I've heard it in churches, I've read about it, but actually learning how to become that person, this is the first time that I've taken a class to teach me that. And the instructor, she's very thorough. Her name is Queen Neat. And I've been learning a lot from her and my sisters. I've been learning a lot from Sandy. I've been learning a lot from other people like Star, beautiful sister. I've been learning a lot from Laura Sager, and this is her beautiful establishment. We're in her backyard, and we are learning how to cultivate herbs. My major goal is to teach young women how to be divine and how to learn how to become a divine sister. And also I want to help them to prepare how to be out in nature, what it means to be out in nature, what it means to grow their own food, to heal themselves. So my goal in life is to help them to learn how to be whole. That means spiritually, that means emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially. So I want to start with teaching them how to be themselves, how to love themselves, how not to let others take advantage of them. And one of the things that I'm definitely in tune to is to teach them how to avoid predators that prey on them when they're young. At the age of 9 years old, I was being molested by someone that was within my family. It was a brother. My mom trusted my brothers to take care of me and my sister while they were out working or either they were out shopping. And so the molestation started when my brother would bathe me. And then it went from being fondling me until actually inserting his finger into my vagina. And for months, I was being molested. And I did not know how to tell anyone. I was actually afraid to even open my mouth because the word sex was not spoken in my household. It was like taboo. And as the molestation went on, it's just I became more and more afraid to talk about it. I was ashamed of it. I was scared. I was thinking that my body was nasty and I was not appreciated. It just made me become withdrawn. And so I found out years later that my sister was also being molested. And then she started to talk to me about it when we became adults. And we both decided that we would never let our daughters be molested by anyone. We paid more attention to who they were around, family members. And I remember also being molested by a cousin that actually hung out with the brother that molested me. So they were both at different times molest me. He would actually come over to my house and I would run and hide from him, and then he would find me. And then the molestation would start. So I don't know if the two, my brother and him, were talking about it, but anyway, I felt very afraid of my brothers. So up until the age of 14, I was being molested by my brother. And my sister was also being molested. So at one point, I remember one Saturday, my brother really wanted to be with my sister. And because she was already developed with the breasts and she had the body, and he wanted her. And so she said, no, if you do Cheryl first, then I would agree to it. And so that's what happened. Well, he pretended. He laid me on the bed and then he was moving the bed up and down, pretending that he was with me. That's the only way that my sister would deal with him. And then I'm thinking years later, why would my sister do that? Why would she include me, knowing that she didn't like it and neither did I? But like, I never discussed it with her later. I never asked her why would she put me in that position instead of protecting me, because I was her younger sister. So that went on until my brother actually moved out of the house. He moved out when he was 18, and then he went to New York, and then I didn't have to worry about him anymore. But the cousin was still around, so he would still come to visit. And I even remember going to spend the night with them. His sister was my best friend in school, and she was also my first cousin. So I'm in the bed between his sister, the two sisters, and he comes in the bed one night in the room and takes me out of bed and takes me in a closet and molested me. His sisters knew about it because they told, the next day in school, they told my sister what had happened and how I was crying. So they thought it was a joke. And so I was so embarrassed when my sister came to me the next day and told, well, everybody know what happened to you, so you're not going over there anymore. So I was happy because of that, but I was also crushed because everyone knew about it. That's what I felt. Everyone knew about what I was going through, but no one knew about the pain that I suffered. So all through my marriage, I was having trouble with this. I did not know the psychological effects of being molested for all those years. I did not know that this was going to affect me as I grew up. So I was very rigid when I did have sex with my husband. I was very rigid, and I didn't feel comfortable about having sex. So for years and years, I never got help from that. I never went through counseling for that. I never forgave my brother or my cousin. And later on, an older man molested me when I was younger too. I forgot about him. But my cousin ended up getting killed in an accident. I showed no remorse. My brother ended up dying from an overdose of drugs. So I couldn't cry because I felt like God moved them out of my path because of what they did to me. So for years and years, I carried this guilt around inside of me of something that I created. I thought it was my fault that these guys did this to me. And it was till I was in my 30s that an older sister, I opened up to her. For whatever reason, I just opened up to her, and no one in my family I opened up to. And she told me that I had to forgive them. Even if they were dead, I had to let it go, forgive them, so that they wouldn't continue to hold this power over me. That's when my healing began. And I still need deep healing from that, because I still sometimes harbor those feelings inside of me that those people did this to me. And when I had my daughter, I swore that no one would ever molest her. So I started teaching her from a young age of people touching her in certain areas where not to touch her so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable. And so I told my sister that I would never let my daughter be molested. Now I got my granddaughters to worry about, and I constantly talk to them about being molested. So my mission in life is to teach young women and the mothers, because the mothers don't pay attention to the signs. I want to teach them to be careful about who they bring around their daughters. And I want to teach the daughters, don't be afraid to speak up. Say something. If it's a girlfriend that you want to speak to about it, talk to her. But if you're afraid to speak up because the person that's molesting you tell you that they would hurt you or members of your family, speak up anyway, because we want to put these people out of commission. We want to make sure that no one ever molests another person. Not even your daughters. Your sons are being molested now. So we want to make sure that we're going to be teaching the sons and the daughters. But my mission is that I want to teach the young ladies how to look out for predators. Even in your teenage years, how to protect yourself from predators that are coming at you. And because they are physically stronger than you, we want to make sure that we can teach you different moves, different protection methods, self-defense mechanisms to help you develop your skills so that you can put someone down that's trying to harm you. And I also want to focus on the things that are attacking our young bodies, the young ladies at their bodies, because we are going through so many diseases among our young women are attracting. And it's not just the food, it's feminine products like your feminine napkins, what they're made of. They're made of toxins. They're made of paper that's been bleached white to make it appear that it's all pure and safe, but it's not. You got dioxin, which is a chemical that kills your body, chemistries, and it's causing these young ladies to have tumors. It's causing the body to be out of balance. And so when your feminine napkin gets wet from your period, it's causing that wetness to be a part in contact with your body, and it's causing you to have all kinds of diseases, and it's causing you to have cramps beyond what they should be. It is causing you to bleed more than you normally do. So we want to introduce you to some safe products, and these products are made with natural ingredients, and it's made where the wetness is going to be taken away from your body so that bacteria don't build up inside your body. So we want to introduce you to some safe products. So I'm going to be teaching you how to cleanse your bodies, how to use safe products, even through your oils and your lotions, what you put on your body, what you wash in, what you do with your hairs, how you can put natural products in your hair to make it grow like it's supposed to. And we also going to be teaching you how to do a full body wash so that you can be cleansed from head to toe. You can learn how to eat healthy snacks so that you won't get the acne, so that you won't get the rough skin, so that you can teach your parents how to prepare meals so that y'all can be healthy, so that y'all can live long. Then you can avoid getting high blood pressure, you can avoid getting diabetes, you can avoid all these different sicknesses that our people are plagued with. You can avoid going to the doctors and being given all these pills to make you sick. Medicine makes you sick. The synthetic drugs that they're pumping into our elderlies, into our mothers and fathers, even into our children, are making them sick, getting all kinds of tumors. So we want to be able to help you to avoid that. Even when you get older and you're having babies, we want to show you how to take care of your babies. Avoid giving them Similac and all the Enfamil, all the soy products that's causing your babies to be full of mucus, to be full of all kinds of diseases. And even we want to teach you about the immunization shots, the shots that they give your babies that's putting poison into their systems. They're killing our children, and they're causing all kinds of problems in our children as they become adults. they got all these diseases and all these behavior problems, and it's coming from the shots that they're giving us. So we want to be able to teach you how to avoid that. We want to get back into nature, the way God intended for us to be healed through our medicines, our foods, our herbs. Those are our medicines. So we want to be able to teach you all of that, and how to have a well-rounded relationship with yourself, with your mate, with your children, and with nature. To open up, because I was afraid, I was ashamed. I didn't want nobody to know that I went through that, because they would say something like, it's your fault, you allowed it to happen. But if you had parents that never discussed on how to take care or prevent this from happening, what you gonna do? We always heard that don't get pregnant. I never knew how to get pregnant. My parents didn't go into explaining stuff. When you have parents that got married at a very young age and their parents did not go into detail on how to take care of your bodies, or even where babies even come from, it's like everything concerning sex or around sex is taboo, and it was never spoken in our household. So I guess it's automatically, you just don't talk about it. You become embarrassed to even say anything. I mean, even when I first started having sex, I did not know, how to even have sex. It was never explained to me. So being molested, I'm thinking that, maybe this is what life is supposed to be like. And I just never spoke about it. But I knew that it was very painful, and that no little girl should ever go through that. And the people who committed this crime on me should be punished severely. And that's what I felt like. God punished those people that hurt me when I was a kid. And I definitely don't want any other child going through what I went through. And it affected me through my adult life, all through my marriage. And even to this day, I still haven't got complete healing from that. It's still in the back of my mind, because when I hear about someone getting molested, those feelings could keep rushing back to me. But I have forgiven the people who've done that to me, but I will never forget it. The mentoring program that I would like to start, I want to address the women in the churches, because most of our women are in the churches. And I want to set up an organization with them so that I can start teaching. But I would have to get permission from the mothers on how to present this to their children. But at age 5, when children start to develop, that feeling, they want to know about their bodies. I want to be able to teach them. And I can work with a psychologist, which I have a sister-in-law in the family. She's a psychologist, and she's willing to be on board helping me to present the different age groups for the different girls, 5, 9, and then even teenagers, because a lot of our girls are being raped. College rape is real well known on the campuses. So we want to teach girls. The mentoring program will start with different ages, but I would love to start in the churches introducing what I plan to do so that I can get some help organizing the different classes for the young women. And then I'll be able to teach them different signs to look for, family members when they start to play with you, what to do, and then teach the parents what to look for, because our parents trust our young ladies too much with family members, and that's usually who it is, close friends and family members. So the mentoring program, it will start at age 5, and then it'll go up until even to teenage, and even in the 20s, because you got some ladies that are late bloomers and they don't know how to deal with relationships. Because guys, I've even known women to be raped in the armed forces, and they don't report it because they feel that nothing is going to be done about it. And usually it's not. They just move the young man from one barracks to the next barracks, and nothing is done about it. So this has to be continuation of even in their 30s, because women are still being raped. So we need to teach them what to look for in the early stages of life.
Well, thank you for a very powerful, enlightening interview, Havinah, really reaching deep into your heart of hearts, forgiveness, and the experiences that you had as a young person that we know is all too commonplace in a lot of families. So thank you for being so open with us. In closing, knowing that this is a worldwide audience that we're serving with this webinar, is there any messages that you would like to leave with the audience. Wisdom, advice, suggestions, key nugget, or whatever you would like to share in a summary statement.
Yes, I would like to leave with the young mothers especially. Pay close attention to your daughters and your sons because they can't communicate to what's going on with them. Pay attention to their behaviors, the acting out. There's a reason why they act out. Pay close attention to who you leave your children with because a lot of mothers are leaving their children with fathers who could be on drugs or they could be drinking. They have other men around them. You don't know what those friends will do to your children. And it's not just the daughters, it's the sons as well. Pay close attention to who you leave your children with. Learn to talk to them about their bodies. Introduce them to their body parts because a lot of young women don't take time to teach the children about safety and what they're supposed to look for when someone who's touching you, different, parts of your body. Pay close attention. Teach them. If you need to go to the library or just look it up on the web on how to teach your children about their body parts, how to talk to them, and how to notice early signs of being abused. And, listen to them. Don't take for granted that they don't know what they're talking about. They can tell you, oh, Mom, this hurts, or somebody touched me. Don't just dismiss this and think that they're lying. They're not lying. They're actually trying to tell you something. So pay attention. I love you all. I thank you, Sandy, for this interview, my first public interview. I love what she's doing with everything. She's such a well-rounded person. She's bringing good topics to the world, and I love her. Just listen to everything that's being talked about on the shows that she presents, and you will grow. You definitely will grow. You grow in love and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bit more about the 6 essentials. We mentioned the roughage, like the carrots. Other things that include roughage will be your salads. Spinach is very, very, very healing. And it's important to, when you do spinach, the best way to eat it is raw. Now, and I use this as an analogy. You can drive from here to New York in a Volkswagen van or a Rolls Royce or on a plane. Okay? The deal is, how do you want to go? You want to provide the best for your body. We will pay loads and loads of money for a car. We will pay $50 to get our SUV clean. But will we buy the best water to hydrate ourselves? Now, it's in vogue now to buy water, and everybody walks around with water. I remember back in the 80s, people just didn't drink water. But now it's in vogue. And that's unfortunate because people have a tendency to go with what's in style instead of what's going to be the best for you. So that sort of leads me, and I'm sort of backing into this, one of the other essentials is hydration. And the body can tell the difference between hydrating with Kool-Aid, okay, and sweet tea, or hydrating with water, and the purest of waters. I remember growing up, and we would go to South Carolina, a little place called Estill, South Carolina, and there was acreage, and they grew the cotton. But the thing that was really powerful for me was priming the pump water. you know, there was always a glass sitting on the side with some water, so you would pour the water in the pump, and then you would pump it, pop, pop, and then this cold, crystal clear water would come out. And as a child, I remember just turning my head and just letting that water just run into my mouth and all down, and it was just so pure. But it came from deep down within the earth. Whereas now, some water that's being sold to us is coming from underneath the parking lot. And if you're drinking water out of the sink, that's water supposedly that has been purified from where we wash clothes and flush commodes and done all those kinds of things. Now, granted, it's relative. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Don't twist my words. But again, you want to drive from here to New York, you want to be in the best condition. So as you live your life, you want to live your life the best. And so what? You pay $3 for a gallon of water. So when you drink it, you can say, oh, this is so good. Just like when you sit up in that Benz or that Beamer and you driving and it's got a new smell to it, and you be like, yeah, you know, I'm it. Well, be it with your health. So hydration is important. So let's ask the question, how much hydration should I drink? Because it goes back to the person telling you, well, I had water, and you ask them and they say, well, I had a glass this morning or last night. How much should you drink? Some researchers say you should drink, if you're 200 pounds, you should drink 100 ounces of water. Okay, if that rides your boat, then do that. Some people say you should drink 1 cup every 2 hours. If that's good for you, then do that. Some people say you should drink enough so each time you urinate, your urine is clear. But I can bet your sweet bippy, if you drink each time you urinate, you'll be drinking quite a bit of water. You can go without almost anything except for water. You can look at a person and tell if they're dehydrated. I teach a phlebotomy class, and we teach the students how to identify dehydration so you can make a determination whether or not you're going to be able to access that vein and get blood out of it. Because if it's not plump and it's not bouncing like a trampoline, then you can't. Same with the skin turgor. If you pull it up and then it just stays up, then you know that you're not getting enough water. If your lips are dry, you're not getting enough water. If you confused it, you need to go drink some water. You know, I went through a little healing crisis myself. I didn't feel well. And my folks were reminding me, drink water, drink more water. And I was drinking, but not enough. So even when you looking at, you're going to be detoxing, you need to increase your water. What does that mean? If I'm used to drinking 5 glasses of water a day, then I need to increase it at least to 8 or 10. Because if I'm taking the herbs or the foods to help detoxify me, then I want to go ahead and clean things out. That's just like a cesspool, or if you got a river with stagnant water. I mean, everything dies in it. But when the rain comes and brings the water, then things just flow and move right along. So the same thing happens in our bodies with that water piece. And if we want to stay young looking, and if we want to lose weight, the more water we drink, the better it is. Particularly if you're drinking that water prior to eating. Okay, an hour prior to eating would be best, but that's the best thing to do. So now, we've looked at what? The roughage with the carrots. We've looked at hydration, and we can keep talking about water and the kinds of water and alkaline water. It don't matter. Just start drinking the water and, you know, doubling up what you're drinking. Now, of course, if you have congestive heart failure, then that's something that you got to be real careful with. If you are end-stage renal disease, you can't load up because those systems are now broken down, which really comes from, especially end-stage renal disease, from problems like diabetes or not drinking water from the beginning anyway. And now you don't want to drink water because I don't like water. Now you end-stage renal disease and you want water and you can have only a little bit. How ironic is that? It's the craziest thing in the world. So again, the roughage, the hydration. Let's talk about some bulk. Because when we talk about bulk, bulk is what? It comes up, swells up. Things that are bulky can be your salads as well. They can be things like Metamucil, which is heavy duty on the market. And all it is psyllium seed husk powder. But the thing about psyllium seed husk powder is that it swells. Metamucil swells. So when you put it in that water, it's going to swell up. And it can constipate you if you don't drink enough water. So here we go. Back to the water again. So bulk up with your vegetables. Bulk up with a little psyllium seed husk powder. You can even bulk up with a little chia if you choose you want to do that, which is very, very powerful. You can bulk up with a little flax seeds if you want to. And flax is just really important. And chia is important as well. So bulking agents through the foods, roughage through the foods. And I want to say a little something else about one of my favorite foods, which is actually a fruit. And that's okra. Okra, my God, I know it's from another planet. I just know it's from another planet. Because it has the seeds, it has the lubrication, and it's got the bulking energy. You know, if I end up not emptying like I want, all I got to do is cut up me some okra, put a little olive oil, some cayenne pepper on there, and I'm telling you the truth, I'm good to go. Watch out, bathroom. You understand? So okra, most people don't like it. They like the okra and tomatoes. That's fine because both of them are fruits. If that's what you want to do that. And for the slime, just saute a little bit and put you maybe a teaspoon of vinegar in that okra, and then it won't be as slimy. You understand? Or try it raw. You don't know how it may taste. And you know, nothing from nothing needs nothing. So if you don't want to try nothing, then you get nothing. And you know, it's so interesting. What we don't know that we don't know that we don't know is what generally keeps us all stuck. And we keep doing the same thing. So it flows us into a very addictive pattern. So, you know, we could talk about food addiction, but we ain't talking about that right now. But the okra will help to clear and cleanse, and it's got even the lubricating and the bulking and the roughage piece. So, again, the carrots, the hydration, the bulking, we talk about the okra, a few sentences here. But let's talk about lubrication. Okra heads it. I mean, that slime that we call slime. We don't like okra because it's slimy, but it helps to lubricate the colon, and the colon loves that lubrication because now what happens? Things just slide out, and it's easy. So instead of you sitting there and you straining for 30 minutes, you sit down. Bam, bam. And you're good to go. And it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. When we talk about lubricating, you know, the oils that I really applaud are things like sesame seed oil. Very wonderful, wonderful oil. It's better to keep it in the fridge though, especially once you've opened it up. And it's a wonderful lubricant for the skin. So you can saute a little oil, saute your vegetables in a little sesame seed oil, of course olive oil, grapeseed oil. Now things like your canola oil, we want to stay away from that. You know, that's not going to take you to New York in a Rolls Royce. Okay? You'd have to walk on some pebbles. You understand? So, olive oil is very, very good for you. The grapeseed oil, I love. The sesame seed oil, I love. And just, you know, experiment with the different oils. You know, I've even tried taking some of the bean sprouts, the ones that sprout just a little bit with the beans themselves, and get a spicy sesame seed oil that has chili peppers, and it's got a little kick on it. And taking a tablespoon and put it on a big container of oil, in a big container, and put the little oil on it, and let them marinate with a little sea salt. Oh my God. It's like caviar. I mean, it's excellent, excellent. And then it's going to sweep the colon, sweep the digestive system. Very important for us to begin to use our foods as medicines. Very powerful, because every pharmaceutical that comes up, you can bet that the pharmacists, the pharmaceutical companies, studied what's out in nature to come up with something that is inorganic, that is not going to be broken down in the body, that suppresses symptoms. So learning to go to your herbs, your foods, your fruits, your vegetables is of utmost importance. So that gives you an example of lubricating the colon. Will make a difference. Our next two items are more mental and discipline. So we're talking about exercise. When you go out and you exercise, then you're going to be able to release better. You can release much, much better when you're exercising. When you go out and walk, or you want to do some crunches, or you want to just deep breathe. This will help your core to get massaged, then it feels like it's being loved. Will make a difference. The last item is the mental work. Forgiveness and visualizing the colon being healthy. You know, we forget about that, the colon being healthy. We don't think that we need to do that kind of work. When you're constipated, then just, you know, think about releasing, because you're actually releasing emotional stuff as well from the foods that you really ate, particularly if you're overweight and you have OCD and all other kinds of things. It's releasing and forgiveness that will make a difference with how your colon and your digestive system function. And as I wrap up in closing, the one thing that I would want to share with you, begin to do some journaling, particularly with my females and those of us who have had challenges with obesity. Begin to journal how you feeling, and stop for a minute when you standing in front of a refrigerator, or you eating a whole pizza, or you've gotten a Big Mac with French fries, and the French fries themselves that are Big Mac French fries, and it's 500 calories. What are you looking for? Because you're not going to find it in the food. So you got to learn to stop a minute and give some thought to what's really going on with you, and journaling your feelings. So that'll bring it up and out of you instead of it being stuck in the core. You know, I at one time was 280 pounds. Oh yeah. And at that time I was dealing with a lot of emotional, mental kinds of things. And then one day I caught myself standing in front of the refrigerator just gorging myself. Oh my God. And I got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I was able to at the end of that day, look at myself and say, okay, what are you trying to feed? And what are you not really looking at with yourself, within yourself? So that's something that I would encourage you all to do, because it's not only the women who are obese. You know, we've got brothers that are obese. And it leads to a whole lot of other problems that can be eradicated. The research out now is even telling those people who are not diabetics to begin to eat like they're diabetics. So you have your plate and you got your vegetable, you got your salad, you got your protein and a carb. And everything should be about the size of your palm. And if you sat down and you stop talking and stop watching television and chew each bite, try to chew it 50 times instead of gulping it down, because you haven't even gotten your chance for your brain to catch up with what you're eating. Try that. My uncle is 80 years old. This dude will go out and run 3 miles. He even takes a spin class. But one of the things that I learned from observing my uncle, he never goes back for seconds. Never, ever, 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 ever. He does his serving. He's been doing that as long as I can remember. Serving sizes. Even when he goes out to eat, he doesn't believe in overeating. So that's another words of wisdom for us to begin to look at. And instead of food controlling you, you get in harmony with how the food works and understand that eating is a science. And you want to eat to be healthy, not to suppress your feelings. And I wish you the best with whatever you do in terms of your health. And it's marvelous to be able to talk about a passion that I have had for 30 some years. When I began doing colon health, my son was actually crawling on the floor. I think he may have been 18 months. He was 33 this year. So I applaud him as well. And for those of you who are working on your health, just keep working. You ain't gonna never stop. You're gonna always want to take it a little bit higher and increase your vibration. Give thanks.
Thank you so much, Nurse Deborah Rouser. You have explained in so much useful information the workings and what goes on within our bodies, and a lot of times we don't have the discussion, so thank you for making it so plain for us. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you for the honor.
Thank you for being with us today. And we know that you enjoyed our awesome, incredible speakers. And we certainly appreciate you as being a part of this groundbreaking historic event. And so we invite you to tomorrow perhaps invite a couple more of your friends over, or how about at your church or your synagogue or your mosque, invite people and have a viewing party so that you can have a discussion afterwards. And so we look forward to being with you tomorrow with another group, anywhere from 5 to 7 incredible individuals that's going to share of their expertise, their love, their passion, because our speakers cover a wide variety of subjects, and it's things that you can immediately put into effect in your life. So thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.